Got it.
Thank you,
Got
folks.
it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Back over to Rachel. Sorry.
Thank you.
Do
Right,
apologise.
so I'm just going to start sharing my PowerPoint that I've got. So just bear with me 1 second and then she'll work through it. So I'm not going to go through too much of this slide. I think you've all met most of us at the Textile Skills Centre and know what we're all about. Just some key points to bring out. So the information is obviously copyrighted to us and it is for use in schools only. And so please don't share these on social media. And as you probably know, we're all volunteers here. So we do this in our free time through our love of learning. Look at that, for a bit of passion today. So do go onto our website and have a little look through some of the other projects that we're working on at the same time. We've got a Facebook page, which I'm sure you're all aware of already. Nikki's got her very proud baby, which is Instagram. I put a screenshot of Instagram on this PowerPoint and she made me delete it because the number was wrong. She had more followers than when I took the screenshot. So Nikki's very proud of her Instagram. If you're not on it, please do go and follow it. And we also have our Pinterest account and YouTube page now as well. So all over social media, keeping you up to date with anything that we're looking into in terms of research and development, but also just anything that we like and share as well. So as I mentioned, we're going to be covering sustainability and leading with textiles. Thinking about how we can make our schools more environmentally friendly is my focus for this conversation. I am a textile specialist D&T teacher, but I'm also the school's eco lead. So I run eco within our school setting. I was asked to do that about 3 years ago. So I started this 3 years ago, and it's kind of grown exponentially over the last couple of years to quite an overwhelming rate, really. And we've had to kind of have a bit of a restructure this year. I had to put an expansion plan in place. Who knew? And that was actually, it was really good and something to be really very proud of. So just wanted to start by sharing with you some of the reasons you should consider doing eco schools, really. The first thing is probably, I mean, I've put Ofsted as the first thing, and maybe I should have rejigged these now I'm looking at it, but Ofsted came and inspected our school this, I think it was May of last academic year. And this was written in their Ofsted report about us. What he didn't write in his report, but he said to me verbally, which I think should have been in the report, was that the eco team was the gold dust of the school. Obviously, I got very excited about that and started running around telling all of leadership that I was gold dust, me personally. And then he didn't actually put it in his report. So I just thought I'd better mention it. We were the gold dust of the school. But in the report, he did mention about eco schools and said how hard we were working. He actually came to one of our meetings where the children were discussing what topics what projects we were working on. And he really enjoyed seeing what was going on there. So really well regarded in Ofsted, but also well regarded within our school and schools community. So our head teacher at the school I work at is really very proud of what we've achieved as a school and how hard we've worked. But it goes further than that because we've had the Mayor of Marlow come in. We're based in Marlow, to speak to us about the projects that we've been working on. We've had numerous charities come in. We've been working with, we've had energy trusts and groups come in, all kinds of members of the local community. Once they heard we were taking on this challenge of becoming an eco school, have really kind of come forward to help us on our journey. So being a part of an eco school or attempting to become an eco school definitely brings value to a school. The Department for Education is pushing this massively. So I'm just going to assume no one's done any research into this. I'm sorry if you already know it. Hopefully you don't. They have said that they are putting in place a new strategy to prepare students for a world impacted by climate change. So this is something that the DfE have put out there. You can find all of the information on their website, and I've put the link in this PowerPoint. But these were some of the key things that I read that I thought, yeah, okay, we should be doing this as part of, you know, our I'm going to call it our extracurricular, but also as part of our curriculum teaching as well. So they've mentioned that we should have a climate change and sustainability in science teaching. So looking at CPD for science teachers in particular, which comes under that STEM umbrella as well. So any of us that are working under that D&T umbrella and can also step across into STEM and work with the science teams. They've talked about our buildings and how we need to change those to make them more environmentally friendly. As far as I'm aware, the government isn't giving us much funding to do that at the moment, and that's very much kind of a business side of this, so not what we would get the students involved in. That being said, we have put solar panels on our school, which was something that the students did. So there is some elements you could adapt there, or work with the children on. But they're saying that our buildings need to be more environmentally friendly. So if we're adding new structures, we need to be considering what they're made out of and how they're affecting things. They're looking at carbon literacy training. So they're saying that they want to introduce almost like an assessment that will be done for year 11 and 13 leavers. So it's about us educating children just to do a small little quiz, I'm calling it, at the end of the year, to say that they understand what's happening in the world in terms of eco. Now, they said that was going to be introduced in 2022. Now, it hasn't yet been introduced. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. They've said by 2023, there'll be new requirements for further education teachers to build sustainability into their teaching. So not just in secondary schools, but going on to colleges and universities. And then they're bringing in kind of these businesses and companies to help us with that. So they've opened something called a National Education Nature Park. It's a virtual world. Don't think it's a zoo like I did. I was expecting to go there and have a lovely time. It is all online, but it does, again, give you kind of really high quality resources that you can work with to embed some of this information into curriculum or into extracurriculum. They're saying that children and young people need to be prepared or could take on a climate award. So this is very similar to a DAV award. We've just started that in our school this year. It's also, what do they call it? Young leaders or something. So it's very much about the students taking ownership of this eco role. And they get a leadership award for it that they can put on their CV. So very similar to what DAV looks like. And that's the Climate Leaders Award there as well. So there's two awards that are coming in. So the idea is one's national and one's local. And then also there's this idea of having climate ambassador funding with universities. So I'm lucky that we're based really close to Reading, and Reading is one of the main universities that have been given this funding to come into our schools and to host workshops and educate our students. So it's definitely worth looking into whether you have those nearby as well. So this was just some information that was on the Gov website regarding sustainability and climate change and what their strategy is for education. And I just kind of want you to think about what or how does this link to your school values. So the image on the left-hand side of your screen here that says ready to face the eco future codes, or the eco code future. This was designed by our student, she was in year 9 at the time, and our school values, we have 6 R's as part of our school values. So we have reflect, readiness, what have we got? Reflect, readiness, respect, resourcefulness, resilience, and responsibility. There are 6 R's, and I'm sure every school has something similar, some sort of value or ethos that we kind of ask the students to follow. So we linked our eco pledge to our school values. So this is kind of a whole school approach at the moment, just thinking about how you can get, or whether you would want to get your whole school involved in the eco drive. It started for me with this eco school journey. So I'm specifically referencing Eco Schools, which is an organisation, I actually don't know, I think it's Keep Britain Tidy, I'm pretty sure it's Keep Britain Tidy that run it. And essentially what it is an online website where you can provide evidence to say what your school is already doing or what you're intending to do in order to make it a better, more environmentally friendly school. At the end of it, if you get the accreditation, you get a certificate and a flag, but you do need to pay £240 a year for this accreditation. There are local ones, so you don't have to necessarily do this National Eco Schools Award. We're looking at the moment at doing a more local one, mainly because I will be really honest with you, there is quite a lot of paperwork involved in doing this eco school application. You need to kind of have all your ducks in line, but also make sure that you've got a team to help you collect information. I've only just got leadership representation this year, so the last 2 and a bit years has been me really fighting to get information from heads of departments or running around and getting staff involved and saying, please help me. Whereas now we've run it out across as a whole school initiative, meaning that I can get things a little bit easier. But there is quite a little bit of paperwork, is that an oxymoron? There is a bit of paperwork that needs putting in for you to become an eco schools. The positives of it is that it gives you quite a rigid structure. So there are 7 points for you to follow, and 7 through 10, I think it is in the end, and you choose within those categories what you're going to focus on. So you specify what your areas are and what you'd like to choose as your main areas of focus. So my school focused on waste and recycling, gardening, and biodiversity. So they have lots of different topics that you can choose, and then you can go on and say, yeah, which ones you're going to do essentially. They guide you through, so they give you lots of steps to follow. So the first step is set up an eco team, start a club, get a member of staff involved, do an assembly. They'll give you the resources for the assembly. So they really do kind of help you get started out. But once they start to ask you to provide evidence, it's not that you're filling out lots of forms, it's just you're scurrying around trying to take pictures of boards that are in the library, or you're running across to English and saying, what do you do in your curriculum, can you help me? So it's just those types of things. So just be aware that if you're going to do this application, you need a little bit of time if you can get it. So I started out with doing a couple of assemblies just to gauge interest, and you will probably notice yourselves if you were to go out and do something like this, it's really easy to get buy-in from 7s and 8s, really easy. The minute you hit that key stage 4 line, we're going downhill a little bit. You get a lot of challenge comments and questions in key stage 4. So I'll often get but miss, is that really environmentally friendly? Do you actually care? Are you putting that in the right bin? Is it actually even recycled? So you do get a lot more kind of challenge and pushback from key stage 4. But I quite like that. I think it's good that they're challenging me, as long as they're doing it respectfully. And I think it's good that we're challenging the system, because a lot of the time it's not recycled properly or it's not done properly. But my argument to them is always, as long as we're doing our own little bit, that's all we can do. As long as we're making one small change. And in assemblies, I'll stand up and say, we're 1,460 students, one change each. Imagine if every student picked up one piece of litter every day for a year, how much litter we could collect. So those are the kind of approaches I take with key stage 4. In the assemblies, I work with a little bit of bribery. Who doesn't? They're all keen for a badge. I don't know what it is about badges, but I'm the same. I am fully involved if a badge is there at the end of it. Love a badge. So we have little Eco Warrior pin badges that they get, and they put them on their blazers. And our eco prefects have their little eco prefect badges as well. So they love that. We also offer prefect status. So we have a year 10, 11, 12 and 13 prefect, one from each year group. So they have to apply to become an eco prefect and take on certain roles and responsibilities. But it is amazing in terms of they can put this on their CVs, and that's kind of how I sell it to those older groups as well. So in terms of, sorry, I didn't mean to do that one. Go back again. We also do some visits and some trips and things with them. That's another way that we engage the students. I have a gardening group that meets twice a week, and I'll tell you why I started gardening in a minute. It was because I turned 30, but there was other reasons. It happens. If you haven't turned 30 yet, it will happen. It was mainly, we got involved with the local community. We take the gardeners to the local gardening centre, and we give them money to spend. So we did some fundraising, and I went there and said, right, if you do 4 hours of gardening over the next 2 weeks, then you can go on this trip and we'll have £300 to spend at the garden centre. So just building up something that they've got to work towards, I think, is always, for me, a good incentive. Making it a target that's achievable. 4 hours is a half an hour break time once per week for a few weeks, and then they can come along to that garden centre trip and spend some money. So like I said, we focused on 3 key areas. I did try to tackle more in my first year. I went a little bit crazy and then decided actually I should probably strip this back and be a bit more focused. So we do gardening, biodiversity and waste and recycling. So our gardening club, we have a few different areas of the school that we plant up, and I'll show you some images of that in just a few slides. The biodiversity side of it was about attracting new insects and wildlife. So we've got hedgehog houses, bug hotels, and we put a pond in last year, which was probably my biggest achievement from, I should say our biggest achievement from last year. And then waste and recycling is an ongoing project where we do various competitions. We've been all over the news recently. Don't know if you've seen how famous we are at school at the moment. Our art department installed a poppy display using recycled plastic bottles. They cut the bottom end of them, with the knobbly bits, and spray painted them red and turned them into little poppies. And we popped them all over the school. It was really very beautiful. And we got a lot of press coverage. We were on the BBC for it as well. So that was kind of part of our waste and recycling drive, and turned into this beautiful art exhibition as well. So clubs are a good start.
Right, Rachel, sorry, can I just ask Victoria puts herself on mute?
She has done now.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
So clubs are a good start in order to drive kind of people coming towards you and getting to know what you're doing as part of an eco group. We used to just do an eco club on a Monday break one, and that kind of then got a little bit lost as to what
I can't hear it when my microphone's unmuted.
Yeah, you're unmuted now, Victoria. I've muted you now. So we do a garden meetup club, a waste and recycling meetup, and a biodiversity meetup. So we split those across, but it can be a lot for you to take on. I can't remember who was saying it's after school club Tuesday. I do after school club every day, which is really, really bad, and I need to kind of limit that a little bit more. But I've been trying to get some of my sixth formers to take ownership of some of those after school clubs and some of the break time clubs. And I'm also encouraging other departments to take over some of those clubs as well. So with the pond, for example, with biodiversity, getting the science department in school to take over it. And this really does help with that STEM or STEAM. If you've got that in your school and you're working under that umbrella, there's, it's a great opportunity for you to work cross-curricularly with all of the other departments on this project. So a couple of projects then that link to I'm gonna say design and technology again, but there's lots of arts involved in here as well. I did a lot of work with our resistant materials team in order to build some bird boxes, which is on those display pictures here, and some bee hotels. So we spent some time collecting up scrap pallets and breaking those down, and also we went skip diving. Let me tell you, the kids love skip diving. You wouldn't believe it, but yes, we like going and digging in. And it's funny because when I was watching one of the interviews in was it Parliament, and they were saying teachers go skip diving and it's terrible, and I thought it is terrible, but I love it. So there are a couple of things that we've worked on in terms of the RM side of things. From an art point of view, we are working on a pond mural at the moment. So we've got students that have designed an infographic mural, and we've got a local graffiti artist coming in. He's doing a workshop with the students on graffiti. I'm not allowed to call it graffiti in school, but I can to you guys. It's mural painting. And so he's coming in just to teach the students about that. And he's actually going to spray paint the whole side of our building with insects that are living in our pond. And that was a big art collaboration that we did. And we got the students to design the concept. We then met with the artist. The artist has given feedback on that. The next step is to host the workshop where the students will learn about spray painting. And then there'll be the installation day where the students will go and help this artist. It's called Dan Wilson, for anyone who's local and needs a graffiti artist. He's going to come in and actually install the mural. So that's another project that's undergoing at the moment that we haven't quite, we haven't done it yet. We've also worked on recycling projects. So like I mentioned about the poppies, we've collected bottle tops. We've been working with resistant materials to break down the bottle tops and melt them into new products. I'm sure you've seen a lot of those on Instagram. Again, for art textiles, it's amazing when you melt down bottle caps. If you were to drill holes in and stitch into those with hand needles, it would look amazing, or using them as the basis for kind of sculptural textiles. So we looked at cutting them up into strips, the recycled bottle tops, and then actually making corsets out of them, of, like the fan kind of, I don't know what you call those. What do you call those bits in the fan, Nikki? You know what I mean? The stick bits. Fan. Anyway, that middle kind of the backbone of the fan. So we
the bones, don't know, Rachel.
recycled plastics to make those. So there's a lot of really interesting projects to consider. And this is what the main conversation point is from tonight's Tea and Chat is, I believe that textiles can lead this project. And I think if we lead it, then we can really develop some amazing cross-curricular developments, projects, and learning. And I do think it really does tie into our subject beautifully. And I'm going to show you why that is in a second. So I started with gardening, and the reason why is because I got into eco printing. Hands up if you've done a little bit of eco printing, or you like a bit of botanical contact dye, all over that stuff. If you haven't done it already, strongly recommend it. Side promotion, we do run a course on it. I went on Fiona Baldwin's course. It was amazing and really eye-opening to see what can be done 100% naturally. Now, a side story for you, I spent 9 years working in fast fashion. So I was living out in China, in probably the most polluted country in the world, making probably the second most polluting product in the entire world. So I am repenting my sins slightly, being the eco lead. I do tell the children these stories, but I haven't bought an item of new clothes in 2 years now. No, although this is new and this is new. This is my Armani shirt that I got for £6, and then this is my Barber that I got. So I do still buy new clothes, and I love new clothes, but I don't buy new clothes anymore. I only buy secondhand from charity shops and online, like vintage. So that was like my pledge. But anyway, sorry, side story. So I got into this eco drive, or this eco side of things, because I went on that printing course. And I thought, you know what? Wouldn't it be amazing if I had a garden in school where I can take the children outside, they can pick their own leaves and flowers, and we can dye and print with them? How incredible. They don't need me. They can literally, I can be like, right, this plant bed here, they're all reds and blues. And this one here, they go oranges and purples. Now, it didn't quite work out in terms of colour planning, because I let the students plant where they wanted to, and because I'm not a control freak. I keep reminding myself I'm not a control freak, and they are allowed. I really wanted to reorganize it all, but I didn't. So, but this is how we started out essentially. There are obviously a lot of positives to having a garden in your school, not just from a curriculum intent, but also from a mental well-being. I love gardening for my own mental well-being. I think it's fantastic. I like quick results. Students like quick results. That's why if you're an art textile teacher, you know that you probably get quicker wins than I would as a D&T teacher, because when I'm teaching construction or constructive textiles, it takes me a lot longer to get that result than when we just do Nikki's heat pressing of leaves. That's literally wax and pin on heat press it, done. And that's kind of the same effects I get from gardening. It's that quick win, pull a weed out, put a new plant in, and it's beautiful. I also really love that with this eco school drive, we create this really strong connection between home and school. So I've had so many parents and community members get involved in this, and that's probably one of my favourite parts of eco schools. So here's some imagery from some eco dyeing and some eco printing. These ones I've taken offline. These ones are some of the ones that are from the classes. So bundle dyeing or natural dyeing and printing, this is how I link this to textiles. So having that little garden in your school, just a little plant bed area, and I'll tell you about, again, space and things in a second, it just mesmerizes me. So I'm hoping you've done it. Also, I've seen on Instagram, haven't tried it yet, but you know where you get a plant flower and you hammer it? I really want to try that as well. I've not done that yet, so that's on my to-do list. But with like Nikki's heat press course as well, where we get the leaves and we paint them, this can all be done with any of the leaves in the garden area. And with the natural dyeing section, when you've finished with the leaves, they go on the compost heap. And when you've finished with the iron oxide that's used to extract the dyes from the leaves, then you chuck those on your plant. That product goes on your plants as a fertilizer. And I just love that kind of circular concept. And that's why I think that eco can be led by textiles. There are huge amounts of industry links in terms of eco. Don't tell Dawn that I've put this many words on a page. She shouts. But we just looking into the kind of industry at the moment and what they're doing. A lot of companies now are going towards eco dyeing and eco printing. So if you're delivering this section in textiles, then you are getting your Gatsby benchmark in some regard, because you could be inviting in these companies to talk about how they can, you know, work with the school to educate on eco printing or botanical printing and dyeing. So, you know, we saw on here that Wisley was doing quite a big project on it. So, you know, maybe a good trip to go out and meet some people. So it's always worth, you know, explaining to students when you're doing these kind of more craft projects, so to speak, it is actually being considered in industry. It'll never take off large scale, and I don't believe it ever will become, you know, a main part of our fashion that we wear. But it's definitely something that's, you know, been more and more talked about. So on here, I've got some cross-curricular links. I'm just going to take a mouthful of tea. 1 second. I talk too much, don't I? So I was just looking on here how it links in terms of the garden, just the garden, to other subject areas. Now in science, we've got links to pH values, mordants, variables. Variables is a really amazing conversation to have with students about, you know, the different soil types in which plants grow can affect the colour. The different water can affect different colours. So some really interesting conversations to be had there. It links to history because, you know, historically we didn't have synthetic dyes. We did use natural dyes. There's some really nice links to food and nutrition as well, and thinking about, you know, how we grow those plants. We've just got some funding to put an allotment in at our school, so we're now putting a whole allotment patch in that's going to be maintained by parents and the allotment society. That actually our food and nutrition department is going to work quite closely with us. They're going to be growing the fruits and vegetables, and then we're going to be using things like the onion skins to do our dye baths with. So really, really beautiful cross-curricular links. And for me, you know, when I first got into teaching, this was just something that blew my mind, like working across all departments for that one united goal. And I think this is where it can really link into your school visions and values. Plant the seed, for that little analogy there. So if you want to do this within your school and you want to get started, I would honestly go backwards from me. Learn from my mistakes. You need leadership involved. So whilst I was approached by the head teacher to do this project, I wasn't necessarily represented on the leadership team or on the agenda at those meetings until this year. And I've really noticed a huge difference. Rather than me chasing the head teacher down the corridor to ask him to sign off on certain things, I now get my weekly line management meetings where I can actually go in and request and talk and get things signed off in a more kind of formal way. And that's certainly been a game changer for us. We started a gardening club, as I mentioned. I did a botanical printing workshop for year sixes. So that was another way. During summer school, I did this workshop, a 2.5-hour workshop where the year sixes did eco printing. It worked really well and had all those eco conversations whilst doing that print workshop to generate that interest, so that when they came in year 7, they were already prepped and ready, knowing that we ran this eco school. If you don't have a space, make space, and I will tell you about that. We didn't have a lot of garden space. We do have fields, but I think the PE department might shout at me if I took one of their goalposts away. So we looked for a space where there was no space. We had these wooden plant beds put in an outdoor corridor. We also have some tyres put around the school, and I'll show you those in just a second. So just remind your, you know, the staff body or the leadership team, you know, you're improving the environment, not just the environment, but it's the way the school looks as well. Like if it's beautifully planted, these images here was my little before, and I had some overgrown weeded beds that had been left for a while, and so we stripped them back and redid them, and just look at the change it makes. And you know, children with any anxiety issues, not just children, myself even, sitting out there with my cup of tea when I'm having a stressful day. I like to pretend that I sit out there for hours with a cup of tea. I don't, it's usually 5 minutes, but it's still nice to have that opportunity or that option if I need it. So these were just some ideas for working with students to find space. We went to ATS, the garage down the road, and said, can I have some tyres, please? And they gave us 10 tyres. They pay to recycle these tyres, okay? So they're paying to get rid of them. They would love to give them to you. So if you want tyres, get them. The only thing I will say is just double check that your head teacher does actually like them, because I put mine in and he actually hated them. So once I'd put them in, he was like, don't like these. And so we ended up building a fence around them out of pallets, which is the image on the right hand side. We got some old pallets from the canteen and we built a little wall around it, so that it didn't look like tyres anymore. But they still make, because you can, even if you do box them in, you can put them on tarmac, you can put them anywhere, they just become plant beds. So they're brilliant for moving around the school, just having in the entrance ways of buildings and things. Really, really beautiful. And even just putting some eucalyptus or some rosemary in there, that's it. And then, it spreads like wildfire, smells incredible when they walk in your classroom, because you've got nice actually, my students didn't like eucalyptus. I love eucalyptus, but they didn't like it. Just thought about that then. Maybe not eucalyptus if your students don't like it. But then involving the food department was something that I started. So I did give the food department some herb boxes, but we looked at taking, this is an image, not my image, I should have put a reference on that one, where you can upcycle a pallet into an upright plant bed. So standing it up against a building wall, and just having that. So you're not taking any ground space, you're going up and putting some plants in there. So thinking about how you can, again, go cross-curricular with this, perhaps a RM project, maybe an art department project. How can you get other departments involved in this, but you're leading on it? So you lead on it with textiles, but we get everybody involved and we make sure that people are, taking a piece of it and running with it. So you can now see my beautiful plant bed hidden. My tyres are now hidden behind my pallet wall, so my head teacher can't shout at me anymore. But you can pop these anywhere around the school. So I do think that that's a really good solution to a space problem. Money is your next big problem or biggest opportunity. I've mentioned this before on another team chat that I've done about collecting donations from local garden centres and working with B&Q. I've put there, we've raised over £700 in cash plus equipment. I think I'm hitting nearly £2,000 actually now as of recently. We have just received another £550 last week. I had 3 bags of topsoil delivered again yesterday. So, I've got a Christmas tree on the way. It's so worth linking up with your local garden centre. They are more than happy to work with you. I offer to do events there. They've never taken me up on it, but I was like, hey, let's display some students' work in your garden centre, which I think is amazing. Imagine if you did a project making tea towels or aprons that were eco-printed, and then they put them in a little display in your garden centre. I think that would be incredible. I'll add that to my to-do list. So lots of really cool ways you can engage the community. B&Q, they do have their community page. I do think they're closed now. If you haven't already got one, do look into it, but it's still worth going and crying at B&Q and telling them that you're a poor teacher and that you need some resources. I've tried that twice and it's worked on both occasions. But they do give you plants that are pot bound, so they're discounted. So usually those pot bound plants do come back once you put them in the ground. They might look a bit dead in the shop, but you get them home, deadhead them, chop those leaves off, and then put them in the ground and they will be beautiful. So working with other companies, again, doesn't need to take a long time. Get sixth formers involved, and parents even. So we've now got a parent representative who helps communicate with local businesses and gets them involved. And I just had a parent come forward, it was 2 weeks ago, to volunteer to do our funding applications for us. So it's a huge job applying for funding. It takes a very long time. So any help you can get with applying for funding, maybe getting a parent governor or trustee involved, or some sort of committee member. We have like a charity for our school, which is made up of parents, so getting them involved in it as well. So charities in your local areas as well, getting them to help you with any project that you undertake as part of the Eco Drive. We've worked with Woodland Trust, Chiltern Rangers, Wood for Trees, the Rotary Club. Most places have Rotary Clubs. They love, again, talking, seeing the students. I took a group of, I think there was 3 boys and a girl that we went in with to talk about our pond project. And one of my students said, Miss, how much are we going for? I said, we're going for £700, but that's it. Don't be cheeky. He was like, nah, I think we need more. I was like, no, be respectful. And then you could see his little face when he was asking for the money, and he was like that. And the guy kind of said to him, how much do you really want? He was like, £1,500. And I'm looking at him, nudging him, like, stop being rude. And he got it. He walked out with £1,500. I was like, oh my God, how did you do that? They love seeing the students present at these board meetings. So either inviting them in or going to see them present. I had them all dressed in suits, with their little PowerPoints and their handouts, and they loved it. And the Rotary Club loved it as well. So we got £1,500 out of them, which paid for some of our linings and things. Blogging as well. I often write to parents and I put things on our school website. Feel free to go through my school website. I've put a few links on these pages and just see the types of things I write about or what I write about. I also get my prefects to write these articles, so I don't write them all myself. They write them, and they'll explain what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. But even just blogging, I've had parents say, or here's some extra money for you. And we've just, I had an email from finance saying, oh, you've raised an extra £400 this term. And I didn't even know I'd done it. It wasn't intentional. It was just letting parents know that there's a Wise Pay link there or a Parent Pay link there that they can donate to us if they want to. You need to make sure you're getting funding in for these projects. They're not cheap. They're not free usually. Our solar panels just cost us £2,000. But we did work with a new startup company, and we also worked with an environmental trust nearby that donated the money to us for those solar panels. So you really do need the support of the local community as well. But again, I'm just going to come back to this workload. I know this sounds like an awful lot of work to do. Don't forget, I've been doing this for nearly 4 years. So this is something that I've built up over time. I wouldn't expect anyone to be doing all of this in their first week of taking on eco schools. So some potential projects from your eco garden that link directly to textiles. With the sewing bee, we've done some naturally printed toiletry bags. So just putting a simple zipper in the top. We've made aprons, we've done plant pots, covers with upcycled fabrics. In terms of the NEA, for any D&Ters out there, this really kind of covers new and emerging technologies, sustainable manufacturing. It links to the other 6Rs that are not my school's 6Rs, and talks a lot about limiting textile waste. And then for art textiles, there's some really lovely artists. If you haven't already looked at some of these artists, do check them out on Instagram or wherever. They do produce some really beautiful work with the contact botanical printing. Eco-printed sketchbooks was something that we did in one of our clubs. And then Fiona also does these landscapes, which are incredible. She takes lots of different parts of her eco-printing, layers them up, and creates these beautiful landscape pictures. And they are really, really very nice. So there are lots of projects that you can do within your department that are driven by your eco school status. To achieve eco schools, you do not need to move heaven and earth to do it. It could simply be that there is a recycling bin in every classroom. It could be that you now have eco representatives across the school and you have 2 assemblies a year. I changed my kind of drive this year. Last year I was going really towards I need as many people to be an eco warrior as possible. This year I'm going more for the approach of it is about awareness. You don't have to save the world. You do not have to change what you're doing. You just need to be aware. Half the time, more than half the time, I'd like to think 99% of the time that somebody drops litter, they don't know they're doing it. They don't. If you stand in the canteen on duty next time and watch them drop food or drop litter, they don't even know they've done it. So I do think a lot of these eco goals and things, they don't necessarily need to be about getting people involved or selling it. It's just about raising awareness of our environmental issues and delivering that through the means of textiles. We hosted a sustainable fashion workshop last year and we did it again this year. So I got a charity involved. They came in, they did this whole chat on why fast fashion is bad for the environment. So it was brilliant in terms of, it delivered so much content. I run a Year 9 project on fast fashion. And they basically covered my entire research project in this 1 hour session that they ran. So it was absolutely brilliant. And this lady Sybil, she's in the middle with a hat on. She is amazing. She is a vintage queen. So she's not retro, she's vintage. She wears like 1920s, 1940s fashion garments that she goes out looking for. So she's really incredible. And then lastly on my slides, before I move to questions, just a couple of things that we did working with the library. So we had the Eco Warriors and the Sewing Bee come together. So I have separate groups. So my Eco Warriors don't have to be involved in textiles. They can be anyone, but also the Sewing Bee students are aware of the Eco team. So they kind of coincide. They're the two clubs I mainly run. And we made some bookmarks for the library. We also made these plant leaves that we displayed all over the library, and everybody got to take one home. And these were all made using scrap pieces of fabric that we just lino printed and roughly stitched onto a piece of felt. And we did those rather than having plastic bookmarks. So that was the topic of conversation, and that's why we spread the plastic bottles all over the tables, just to bottle tops, just to make an impact for that as well. So I really do think there is a lot of things that can be done for eco schools through textiles or through discussions that link very much to textiles. And it is just about bringing it all together and kind of working with your department, working with your school to kind of think about what you could do in order to achieve this eco school status. Like I said, it's not necessarily the be all and end all to get your green flag, although it was for me. That was like my goal in life, was to get that flag. You can just run, eco schools through, local charities. So we've got Wild Marlow local to us. They're looking at doing their own green flag award outside of the global or national one, should I say. So yeah, lots and lots of ideas there for you, hopefully. Just giving you something to think about. But if anybody's got any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. If you want to know how I've done anything, I mean, there's so much more I could have put in that, but I've already talked at you. I haven't even drank my tea. I've just talked at you for 45 minutes.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. You seem to have done so much. I think what Rachel needs to stress is that she has been doing it for 4 years. So she did start off just by doing the plants. Not all of this happened all at the same time. No one's expecting you to do everything all the time.
I should have done a timeline, shouldn't I?
But it's definitely not something, because I did this, Rachel was talking to you about it when she did it years ago. So it has progressed over a long time. Is there anybody that's got any questions, or they want to put any questions in the chat? Do ask Rachel about Ofsted or going to see the head and how she got round doing that.
Or do you want to talk money or time? I can do that if you want.
B&Q is amazing, by the way. I got lots and lots of stuff from B&Q.
I am working at the minute to try and get a TLR for my eco school status. So I don't have it at the moment. It's not something that I'm paid for within the school, but it is something that I'm working towards as well. So always worth thinking when you're taking on a topic or a project like this, to think about hours allocated. I do get hours. I don't get money, but I do get hours to work on this project. So do you think about that when you're approaching your schools, if you want to go on and take this project further? Mordant dyes. Mordant dyes so the mordant is what fixes the dye. So if you're going to take leaves and things, they're not just going to attach to the fabric on their own. You need a mordant. So the mordant that I used was iron oxides. You can actually use soya milk, apparently, I've heard. I do have, I don't know if they're here or at school, or is here, a good book I'd recommend if you want to go down the eco printing route. This one, I can put a link in the chat. It's called Wild Colour, and it's by Jenny Dean. In fact, I think she's one of the artists I referenced as well. But it tells you in here every single plant and what colour it dyes, and then also which fabrics it works on as well. So, eucalyptus goes this beautiful orange colour, but it only goes this orange colour on wool. So when I was working with wools, I don't want to buy wool, so we went and got some old blankets from charity shops and ripped those up just to work on with sampling for those. So this is a really good book for if you want to have a little bit of a read about it. But I do, sorry for the promotion, but I do strongly recommend going on Fiona's course. She sparked all of this for me 3 years ago, and I was just mind blown with all of this kind of eco printing, eco textiles. It was really amazing. Yes, we do share the recording, don't worry. It will be on YouTube and you can go back and have a look.
I have recorded it all, so if you want to go back and look at it or anything, if you go to our YouTube channel, we record all the Tuesday tea and chats. They're always all there, plus everything else. There's lots of the careers things on YouTube as well, so you can go and look on there and see them all. I think Dawn, when she gets back, will do it. Might not go up until she's back, so it'll be next week probably.
But you're always welcome to ask any questions. Planning on starting a textiles. Planning on starting a textiles club for year 9s. We did one last year. However, students all joined at different times. They were their own projects each. What do you do a good first session for the club? I'm hoping to do a project together at the same time. First after school. What do you mean in terms of eco printing, Abby? Do you mean doing the first session for eco printing, or do you mean just the eco? Will you read that question for me, Nikki? Sorry, again, do you mean eco printing or just eco club? So first session would just be getting them picking leaves, really. So they just need to know about the different leaves and the colours and things. It actually, the whole session to do eco printing takes a minimum of an hour. So you need 40 minutes in a steamer at least to get the results. So it's either one of those where you set it up, put it in a steamer, and then they can open it up next lesson like tie-dye, or you have it some in there that you've done Blue Peter style. So you get the students to do all of the wrapping and making, and then you can have some that they open up later. It's probably, with eco printing, I probably wouldn't suggest it as a one-off, as a continual project. I would more look at it as either a 2-hour class if you get any doubles, or doing a mini workshop on it. It does kind of need to be, it's not really a short and quick thing to do, if that makes sense.
Rachel, have you got any tips for getting sixth formers involved? Because we've got
cups of tea work really well for me. So I make them teas and hot chocolates when it's raining outside. I also use UCAS applications, uni applications, and also Prefect as an enticement. I just went into a business lesson this week to talk about getting people involved in the eco conference from a business point of view. So they're doing the admin side, the events planning. So they're going to organise where all our stall holders go, the layout of the day and how that's going to run and structure. So I got business students involved, not just textile students. I've gone out to other departments. I did a year 12 assembly as well, where I've talked about, if you come and help us, I'll write you a reference, and this can look really good on a CV. So it's just,
I used to do that, Rachel. Yeah, the UCAS reference thing, because some of them have very, very limited things to put on their UCAS reference. And if they can put on that they're part of anything that's eco or sustainable, if they're going to university, then the university lecturers are going to read that and love it and ask them questions when they come back about it. For me, anything was all about getting something to put on their UCAS reference. And that might be too, because you were talking about them to help you just help with clubs as well. Helping other students, doing other things. There's ways of wording it. I think we've got it all that on our careers website, I think.
We also do compulsory as well, Nikki. So we have something in our school called CS, which is curriculum support. So our year 12 students have to do 2 hours curriculum support every single week. So not every school does that, but ours does insist on it. It is, I think it's the Gatsby benchmark, but I'm not entirely sure.
Gatsby, probably.
Our year 12s have to come and help in our lessons for 2 hours. But I've also got them to agree that they can also help with extracurricular clubs as part of that CS. So
mine did extracurricular.
Yeah. So one of my year 11 students, for example, who's doing GCSE, she's an avid crocheter. She runs my crochet club on a Friday. I can't even crochet, but she's incredible. But yeah, my sixth formers, I tend to get them to come from, we've got 6 in year 12 that are doing fashion, textile, AQA, and they come in to help with the younger years. So yeah, definitely work within what you have in terms of the students that are already a part of your A-level students that are in your subject, but reach out to other ones as well if you need to.
Any other questions, anybody? That was all amazing, Rachel, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Considering schools have to actually do this now, I mean, this is the future.
It is, and that's why we did it. We wanted to get ahead of the game. The government is saying by 2025 this is a must. So I didn't want to be that school that went, oh my God, it's now I've got something else to do. We're ready. If anyone wants in our school, I can be like, here you go. It has taken me a few years to get there, but I would say that I did it entirely on my own. With the resources that we've got, I am more than happy to mentor people through this process. You know, work together collaboratively. I work with a team of primary schools and secondary schools. We work together on it. I think that's so important. You can definitely do it quicker than I've done it with the resources and information that's readily available now compared to what was there 3 years ago.
That's very generous of you, Rachel. Very generous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it then, folks.
Yeah.
We're just about 5 minutes early, which is pretty amazing.
Look at
Even
me.
though Rachel can talk the hind legs of a donkey, that's amazing. So unless anybody has anything else, you can always come back to Rachel. It's Rachel at Textile Skills Centre. .com. If you have anything that she hasn't gone through on here, anything that you want to ask her, please come out and ask her by all means.
I'm always on Facebook.
We're always on the end of an email if you need us, any of us. That goes for me too. Not that I do any of schools, but we're always on the end of an email.
No, I think I'm.
And we take donations if anybody wants to. Yeah.
We need to do that buy me a coffee thing, don't we? I'm all for that.
Yeah, no, you don't need to buy Rachel a coffee, but we do have to pay for Zoom and all these sort of things which come out of the fund. So if anybody ever feels they want to make a donation, please do, no matter how small. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Amazing. Thanks, everybody. Angela, email me.
I will. Thank you, Rachel, as well.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Sorry, I'm late, Nick.
No, don't worry, Jane. It's all on. It'll be all recorded, Jane. I'm still recording now, so it will all be recorded. So you can just watch the recording.
Brilliant. I shall do that. It's been a nightmare getting home tonight.
Yeah, I know your traffic. Don't worry, Jane. I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon.
Yeah,
bye.
Take care, Jane. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll watch the video, and if I can email you, that'd be great.
All right, Jane.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Claire, are you waiting to speak to me or are you just hanging out? In which case I'm going to kick you out. See you later.
That's it, right. I'm just going to stop the recording.